Championship, the first of 22 races to decide the third World Touring Car Champion of this modern era. And a packed grid here in Curitiba, the home of one of the men who starts on the front row of the grid, Augusto Farfus, once more underlining the appeal of the World Series. Well, let's take a look at this Brazilian circuit. They're not as well known as Sao Paulo or Rio, but Curitiba is a very well-used track in Brazilian racing. And indeed, Augusto Farfus spent much of his young career at the karting track within the facility. But up until last year's World Touring Car race, he had never actually raced on the main circuit itself. That he's put right. Last year, he claimed pole position, but did not manage to win a race. This year, he thought he had pole position, was denied at the last second of qualifying by his own teammate, and has ended up on the outside of the front row of the grid. This morning's warm-up passed without drama or incident for any of the drivers, and so we have 20 cars on the grid as the southern hemisphere summer gradually eases towards autumn. So spring arrives in Europe. It's warm and sunny here in Curitiba, and on the grid, Jacques Bayard on the right-hand side of the picture, who is the man who is one of the organisers for KSO, presenting an award here which has been effectively donated by the fans. 24,000 kilos of food being given to the poor of the district, and the deal was that if anybody wanted to come and watch the race, they could come for free if they brought a kilo of food with them. So 24,000 kilos of food donated to the local needy by the people that you can see in the grandstands right there. Well, as we begin our 2007 campaign, the man they all want to beat is the double reigning champion, Britain's Andy Priaulx. He's not yet ready to give away the crown that he's earned so hard over the last 2 seasons. The hunt is on again.
I would like to win the championship. Tomorrow I would like to do a good job, but it takes a full year to win a title. So pretty calm and just looking forward to the challenge of a new season.
The biggest of the big-name changes this season has been 23-year-old Brazilian Augusto Farfus departing Alfa Romeo shores for BMW. He joins the Schnitzer team, third in last year's championship. He joins Jörg Müller, who was second in last year's championship. And Schnitzer and BMW Team Germany determined to try and win. And 2 more BMW drivers will take on the Seat squad. Michel Jourdain, Thiago Monteiro, Ivan Müller, Gabriele Tarquini and Jordi Janay. We've got to get a title this year if we're going to continue with Seat. Sure, Seat is involving itself in the championship increasingly. We must get them to the front of the grid, says Gabriele. BMW are the car to beat, though. We've got to change that, because now it's better to be in yellow, he reckons.
Adesso bisogna cambiare, perché no, in giallo è meglio.
Well, it's the third year for Chevrolet, who joined a year after Seat into the World Touring Car Championship. They continue with Alain Menu, Nicola Larini and Rob Huff. Their driver lineup is unchanged.
This is the third year of Chevrolet, so the idea is we go out and win, and we've got a very good package this year. We're much more consistent. We learnt a lot last year with the setups on the car and so on and so forth, so taking that forward to this year, we're looking for a good season, hopefully going to be very quick.
British driver James Thompson left Seat at the end of the season to rejoin Alfa Romeo, but with a car that debuted in 2002 is the N-Technology Cruise machine now looking a little long in the tooth.
I don't really know how competitive we're going to be because we haven't tested with anybody else, but that's quite exciting because we've arrived here, we don't know anybody else's performance, but hopefully Curitiba should suit our car.
Well, one driver won't be racing this weekend, and that's Roberto Colciago after a high-speed impact with new boy Michel Jourdain of Mexico. Jourdain's car has been repaired and he will race, but Colciago was physically battered a bit and he is not on the grid here. Well, for this season, we'll be commentating on every single one of the races live and all the qualifying sessions for you. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me, former British touring car driver David Leslie. And David, again, Andy Priaulx as the reigning champion. His BMW Team UK outfit is the benchmark. He is the man that everybody has to take down if they want to win anything.
They've been trying to do that now for 3 years. 3 years ago he won the European Championship, last 2 years the World Championship, and with that number one on the door, he's very much the target. Now in qualifying he ended up third quickest behind the two Works BMWs of Jörg Müller and Augusta Farfus. So, you know, to start with, he's starting on the second row. BMWs have locked out the front two rows because in fourth place with Felix Portero as well, another BMW. Even with the rolling start we'll now have, the first race will be a rolling start, the second race a normal standing start. Even with that, the BMW is very much on top form here this weekend.
Well, that's a big change for this season then, the introduction of a rolling start to try and undo some of the benefit that BMW has always gained from a standing start. And race one, as David says, will be the full rolling start from behind a safety car. Drivers here practicing standing starts for the first time. They've never had to use them for just one race of a weekend, but the real difference will be when they get away from behind the safety car, how things will change.
It's a good change. To me, it should be the both races in a rolling start, because it's the best way to equalize the performance of the cars, which is the aim of the championship. But I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be as exciting as the normal standing start, because the cars will get to the first corner as close or closer than they used to be. So it's going to be a good fun.
Well, the reason is quite simple. Most of the cars in the field, Seat, Alfa Romeo, Chevrolet, front-wheel drive cars, just don't get off the line as well as the rear-wheel drive BMWs, and that's been a problem from the start. Jörg Müller doesn't see quite so much the problem. He says the main difference is just that we can't use our advantage from a standing start when we're rolling, so that will be better for the front-wheel drive cars. So here in Brazil, the first rolling start will make World Touring Car history.
Our idea is to have all the cars at the same speed, perfectly well positioned, two line of cars. Into the last turn, at the exit of the last turn, the leading car will go off the track by the right-hand side, and then we will have all the cars on the start-finish straight. If everything is correct, the positions are good and the speed is okay, then the lights, which are red at that moment, will change to green and the race will start at that moment.
On the grid with Yvan Müller, the Frenchman racing again for Seat, and at the beginning of the 2007 season he's looking to do exactly what he did last year, which is take this championship by storm. He was not only the leading Seat driver but the championship leader by the time they got to Brands Hatch in Kent. He had a very strong start to the season, hit a bit of a fallow patch after that, but he is determined not to let that happen. Jordi Genet, of course, Seat's Spanish driver, and he is on the outside of row 4 of the grid. Tom Coronel, David, changes for him this year. We've seen him before in the GR Asia Seat racing for Holland, but this year he's not allowed to even try and win the Independence Trophy that he claimed last year.
Well, having won it, the rules state you cannot go on and do it again, so now he's got to move up into the manufacturers class. He's still run by GR Asia, still run by the independent team, but no longer allowed to go for independent championship. So last year we've seen him running right at the front and then just sort of backing out of it a little bit and letting the Works guys go, not getting involved in their fight while he was concentrating on winning his own championship. This year, knowing Tom, he will not do that. If he's up there at the front, and he has been going well this weekend, he will stick to it. He will give them as good as they give him, and he will want those overall positions.
Well, we just saw Rob Huff in the Chevrolet. He is the best placed Chevrolet on the grid. Gabriele Tarquini, the best of the front-wheel drive cars, the best Seat, because the first 4 cars are all rear-drive BMWs. This is the new boy in Roberto Ravaglia and Umberto Grano's BMW Team Italia Spain. He joins Alex Zanardi as his teammate this year. Felix Porchero, a man who comes from a single-seater background, and this is his first ever race with a roof on his head. So at least least it's a rear-wheel drive car. That makes some of the conversion process perhaps a little more understandable than going from rear-drive single-seater to front-drive car. Our reigning champion, Britain's Andy Priaulx, the man from the Channel Island of Guernsey, starts in 3rd position. And David, for a lot of qualifying, it looked as though he might end up down at the bottom end of the top 10, but he found the laps right towards the end when the session was at its quickest to just come in behind the 2 Schnitzer BMWs of Augusto Farfus, the local hero here, in 2nd place, and our pole sitter Jörg Müller.
That's right, Andy. It took him until his last lap to put in a time that put him right up there along with the 2 works cars. But having studied the detail of those lap times, Andy, in actual fact, if he could put the 3 different sections together of the racetrack, could have ended up on pole position, but he didn't string his lap together properly. Early on, he had a very good first sector. Middle of the session, he had a very good second sector, and it wasn't until the end of the session he had a very good third sector. Now then, unfortunately, he didn't put them all on the same lap. This guy did. Jörg Müller, he was able to get all his laps together on the very last lap indeed. When Augusto Farfus thought he had pole position, all of a sudden back came Jörg Müller. Thank you very much, I'll have that. I'm the guy that's been in this team a bit longer than you have, and he's the guy that's on pole position. So it's going to be very close indeed during this race with these 3 cars. In fact, it's going to be very close with everyone, but especially the 3 guys at the front.
So BMW, the top 4, ahead of Tarquini and Huff for Seat and Chevrolet, Tom Coronel for Seat in Holland, then Jordi Genet, Ivan Muller and Alex Zanardi down there in 10th place, ahead of Lurini, Pierre-Yves Courtals and Luca Rangoni are the 2 top independents, ahead of Alain Menu, James Thompson, new boys Sergio Hernandez and Michel Jourdain and Olivier Tielemans, ahead of Stefano D'Aste. So we are a couple of minutes away, less than that, from the start of the 2007 FIA World Touring Car Championship at Curitiba in Brazil, the first of 22 races and the first in World Touring Car history to start with a rolling start. The safety car pacing pole sitter Jörg Müller, his teammate Augusto Farfus with the green and yellow of Brazil, the highlights on his BMW 320, reigning champion Andy Priaulx from Guernsey and Felix Porchero of Spain. The top 4 cars, all BMWs. Now they come into 2x2 file and they head around the final corners. Lights are out on the safety car, and the clerk of the course, Eduardo Freitas, will be judging to see whether he has got 2x2 formation at a decent pace. Safety car will pull into the infield area, and Jörg Müller on the left of your picture, on the right as the drivers see it, will lead the charge down to the first corner. We'll wait to see if the lights go green. It looks like it should be a good even start. We're waiting. Eduardo Freitas playing chicken with them, and here come the Seats trying to desperately use some of their great acceleration to overhaul the front runners. Jörg Müller on the left-hand side of the picture with the green highlights. Augusto Farfus into the first corner for the first time of 14, and here comes Priaulx up the inside trying to split the 2 Schnitzer cars. He gets into second ahead of Farfus, and 3 abreast behind. Somebody's off on the outside. There's a Seat, and that is Pierre-Yves Courtals. 2 Chevrolets are off. That's Stefano D'Aste, I think, car number 30. Luca Rangoni. So the top 2 independents are off. One of the Alfa Romeos, that's Olivier Tielemans, is out of the race. The other Alfa as well, James Thompson. There's been a collision between those. Jörg Müller leads and is apparently second and third, as the graphics can't quite hang on to it, but it's Priaulx second, Farfus third, David 3 and 4 abreast. We really don't see into a first corner from a standing start, and that was the potential there for disaster.
It was certainly a big mass of people, more than ever, going into that first corner, all at full speed, much quicker into the first corner than would it be a standing start, and eventually something had to give, and it gave in the middle of the pack, towards the end of the pack. Nicola Larini, that's him out in one of the Chevrolets, and Thompson with an Alfa Romeo. We've seen the Alfa Romeo. This is number 30, Rangoni, with his BMW here. They're coming together, we think, with Thompson with the Alfa Romeo, and that was the end of his race. But we hear there's a safety car. Yeah, that's the sign, safety car out. So that car that pulled off into the pits was straight through it out the other side, and obviously trying not to run anybody over in the meantime, and back out there. The flag is being waved, the boards are out, the big board that says SC on it for safety car. You'll see a black car shortly somewhere just round this first corner. It'll come back into sight.
Well, David, it's exactly what the organisers wanted, to try and avoid too much carnage in the first corner, but you can see here the stripe down the middle of the road. That's somebody trying to drag a car with a very flat tyre. Let's look at it from behind and just see cars bouncing in the air. One Chevrolet gets into Courtaulds, and behind is the Vickers Sport BMW. He just gets back on. Let's see down the inside.
That Chevy was touched by
Ivan
Muller.
Nicola Larini.
That's what set the whole thing off.
Menu escaped just on the outside. He actually got clipped by Courtaulds as Courtaulds has been pushed offline. Thompson here gets a thump from don't know who, but again, as you see the reverse angle, it's just from about 7th or 8th place back. It's touching, and some of the touches were not that light.
I think Thompson unfortunately got into the back of Larini because he had nowhere else to go at the time. But in a separate incident, the other Chevrolet and Rangoni went off on the inside. We're not sure how they had it coming together. Probably a legacy of the same thing. There's the black tyre mark we've seen. That was the reason it was caused.
Oh, on board with Nicola Larini. That is Tom Coronel right in front. Larini has been hit here and is being spun round. Wait for the impact. He did get into the side of Alain Menu, so Alain Menu's right rear tyre might be questionable. There is Nicola Larini's car. So we have lost probably half a dozen cars from the field already. Well, not much you can say, Menu. That's him off at the side of the field, so we'll cross another one. We now have just Rob Huff going for Chevrolet. Pierre-Yves Courtaulds is out, Larini's out, Menu is out, Rangoni is out, Thompson is out, Tielemans is out. Who else did we lose? That's 6 of 8 cars from row 6 down to row 9. That was where it all happened.
It really was in the middle towards the back of the pack, but it all sort of kicked off. The guys at the front decided they need to get round that first corner first in one place. You've got to get to the end of these races to score points, and that's what makes a big difference when it comes to the championship at the end of the year. And the guys on the front 2 rows, they knew that. They've been fighting for this championship for the last 3 years, right at the very front of it. They didn't make any mistakes. They were close, yes. They were probably leaning on each other, yes. But no, they didn't hit each other. Ivan Muller did. He caused that accident with car number 12 up the inside, hit Larini, and that set off the chain reaction.
Well, again, you'll see it from onboard Ivan Muller's viewpoint. He'll have felt that Larini came up to the apex to squeeze him, and there was nowhere to go. But David, you can see the chicane there in the background. There's 1 car width if you go straight from apex to apex, not 4. There's 4 if you're doing 12 miles an hour and being really careful. You're not going to get racing cars through there. That's what's left of Rangoni's tyre and wheel departing the suspension. That is the entire suspension leg there, attached still to the wheel but not to the car. That's how fierce the impact can be when cars take what seems like a relatively small knock. So let's look again at the order. You've just seen it on screen. Jörg Muller leads from Andy Priaulx, Augusto Farfus in 3rd, Gabriele Tarquini 4th, Rob Huff 5th, Tom Coronel 6th, Alex Zanardi 7th ahead of Felix Porchero. So I think Porchero in his first ever touring car start certainly put survival right at the very top of his agenda. James Thompson now, David, no longer do they have to turn these cars round in half an hour between races. There are now 3 hours between races, and I think it's partly because of problems like this that take a lot of time to solve that the organisers have decided to try and do that, to give a fighting chance for one indiscretion by another driver not to completely cancel somebody's weekend. But you can see there with his team boss James Thompson looking pretty dejected. The season has started in the worst possible way.
It's not been a good weekend for him. He's been out there, he's been very quick indeed. Qualifying went terribly wrong for him. He had a clutch failure after 1 qualifying lap, and that's all he got in. He did manage to qualify at 8th, which was good considering he only had 1 lap on which to do that in, and then he had to sit out the rest of the qualifying session. So the race now has been extended. 14 laps is what it was. Now then the first 2 laps or 3 laps is it, under a safety car don't count. So those laps are added on to the race distance. So you can see at the top there, we're now on lap 4 of 16. So we've been extended up until lap 16. So 2 laps added on. So the first 2 laps safety car don't count. All the other laps of the safety car do count. So in the meantime, they're just carrying on around. Here's a restart again from a different angle.
Well, there you can see a great start from Augusto Farfus. Watch Andy Priaulx on the right-hand side, but look behind. Look, there's 4 abreast with a Seat on the outside. Watch the second of the yellow Seats on the right-hand side. That is Ivan Muller. On the inside, still on the inside. Larini did come across him, did try and squeeze through, couldn't make the apex because Muller was already up alongside his, what to the driver is passenger door, and so Muller's going to say, I didn't vary my line, Larini came right across on me, and he's going to be exactly right in saying so. But it's the old story, 4 into 1. There's likely always to be 3 losers.
That's right, and this time there certainly was, and the guy on the outside that lost out probably the most was nothing to do with him. He was keeping out of it. He decided he wanted to get round the first corner first without a problem, and unfortunately he got lumped into an accident that wasn't his.
That's exactly why the driver likes to be on the inside line going into a corner in a bunch, because if there's touching, it's usually the one on the outside that rolls out of bed. With Andy Priaulx, second place. The black car in front, of course, is our safety car.
Now they're weaving to try and get the tyres warm. The safety car, I thought, may have come in that time. The lights are still on. The lights will go out between turns 7 and 8 before it comes in just before turn 9, unless Thielmann's car pushed over to this side and to a place of safety, but the front end very, very much disarrayed on that. So a lot of work to be done by the teams if they can.
Well, now it looks as though we have got a couple of the cars that went off at the back. I think Pierre-Yves Courtal's, the very last car in the queue, is still going, and Stefano D'Aste, but there is Alain Menu's car. That is definitely not running at the moment, and the yellow flags still waving all the way around the circuit. So although we're not seeing the work that is going on, clearly the organisers are still making sure that the track is safe to race on, as the distinctive orange colours of Tom Coronel go through. We're riding on board with Augusto Farfus. Now we've already had one rolling start. Of course, when the safety car pulls off, it'll be a second rolling start, and as soon as the first few drivers see the lights go off on the safety car, which they really should be paying enough attention to notice, there you see Olivier Thielmans and Alain Menu. Well, Menu's had many years of touring car experience and has been there a long time before, but Thielmans, his very first touring car race, well, it didn't quite even go as far as James Thompson's. His car didn't get back to the pits even. It was pretty badly damaged.
What I want to know is, where did Alain Menu get the sunglasses from?
Well, at least it's not Joe Winkelhock having a crafty cigarette, because we all know where they used to come from. Safety car leading them round. We are getting ready, we understand, for a restart, and as they come out of turn 6 here, as they get past this white line, which is the second timing beacon line, as they go between turn 7 the left-hander and turn 8 the right-hander, the safety car should switch its lights out, and it has. So we're getting ready to restart. Now watch the 3 BMWs close right up, because Priaulx will be aware, his team boss Bart Mampai will have told him, ditto Charlie Lamb will have told the Schnitzer boys. Jörg Muller is already hard on the gas. We are 6 laps in. This is going to be the end of lap 5 rather, so it'll start lap 6 of 16 laps. So here we go, restarting the first race of the FIA World Touring Car Championship, and a huge restart advantage for Jörg Muller. That is incomparable starting from him, and Priaulx was perhaps thinking about defending David Leslie more than attacking there.
He was miles away. He should have been right on Jörg Muller's tail. He really should have been right there with him, and the minute Jörg was gone, he should have been going with him. He should have been anticipating every possible move as to how quick he can get into the throttle. Unfortunately, he didn't. The cars are now one by one. They've been stretched out a little bit into that first corner, and now they've been able to all get through there without any more incidents. So hopefully now we'll continue the rest of this race without incidents and see a really good, tight, close race.
Well, the field all stringing out, but here is the battle for second place. Augusto Farfus all over the back of Andy Priaulx. The first of the yellow Seats is Gabriele Tarquini ahead of Rob Huff. And on board with Farfus, Priaulx's on the brakes. And Farfus similarly turning into this long, tight left-hander at turn 6, sort of little bowl corner. And then with the pits on their right-hand side, green flags waving all over, and Jörg Muller is gone. It's all about the battle for second place, unless in the next 10 laps somehow Priaulx can really start to tow Farfus up towards the race leader. Oh, and Priaulx very wide over the curbs there, and that will give Farfus a little bit more of momentum into the final corner to try and catch him. And that's a bad mistake, just coming onto this very long straight at Curitiba.
Now this corner here, we've seen last year there was 2 cars didn't quite make it round that corner, went into the tyre barrier on the left hand side there. One of them was Emmett O'Brien when he was in the BMW, and the other one was Alain Menu with the Chevrolet last year. So these guys very much mindful of that and making sure that when they come out to that last corner, very, very quick indeed to go along the straight, they keep it very much on the black stuff and not running into those tyres. But Andy Priaulx, as you can see there, using all of the circuit and the curbs as well, trying to get as much out of his car as possible. He did let Jörg Müller go on the restart. He now has to try and A, defend from Augusto Farfus, and B, catch Jörg Müller in front. Now I think he's going to have difficulty catching Jörg. Whether he can make sure that Augusto stays behind him or not, I think on the next few laps will tell.
Well, to my mind and to my eyes, certainly Augusto Farfus looks a lot neater and tidier, and so too does Jörg Müller, in fact, than Andy Priaulx. Priaulx's car seems to be a little more tail happy now. Whether that will change over the balance of the race, maybe halfway through this lap with the tyres really back up to temperature, it ought to start to settle down a little, but certainly to the Schnitzer cars in front and behind him are looking a lot more planted. Priaulx's car just a touch more nervous, and that must make it a little more difficult to drive accurately as well.
It's always more difficult when your car's moving around underneath you and you can't sort of put it exactly where you want it, or it runs over the curb and a bit of grass as well. Then you always tend to be fighting with your car rather than concentrating exactly trying to get the best out of it, trying to brake late, trying to get the perfect apexes and trying to get the best time out of the car. So, you know, when you're fighting with the car, it doesn't really help a lot. And Andy, we feel as though his car's maybe not quite as good as the other two BMWs, but you can see Gabriele Tarquini is hanging on extremely well there in fourth. Right up behind him, Rob Huff, Tom Cornell further back here, another battle.
Yeah, great battle down the inside of Michel Jourdain Jr. comes the 31 BMW and 31 BMW. So Michel Jourdain passed there by Sergio Hernandez. So the Spaniard gets by the Mexican, and Emmett O'Brien, the green car. Now he's Tom Coronel's GR Asia teammate. He ended the season in the European Touring Car Cup with two very strong races into second place behind Ryan Sharp in a pair of GR Asia Seats, and he's obviously decided that that is a good team to spend his time and his effort with, and he's coming up the order. So O'Brien looking to get 12th place from Michel Jourdain, but still it's real deadlock at the front. Even Tom Coronel in 6th place can't get by Rob Huff in the Chevrolet. The Chevrolet team, David, were quite confident that we ought to see some surprises from them, particularly in terms of straight line pace, where they felt they've really been at their weakest in the previous two seasons, and I think that's actually starting to bear some fruit as well.
And they've done a lot of winter testing, and they feel that when it came here they were really much more on the ball. They were a little bit unhappy with qualifying. Alan Menu unfortunately got balked by a group of guys who were already out there in his fastest qualifying lap and couldn't replicate that lap later on, so he was left a little bit behind. Rob Huff, you can see here now in 5th place. He was the highest placed of the Chevrolets, and he's the only one still running after that first corner incident, taking the other two of them out. So Chevrolet much more looking forward to the race than they did in qualifying, having had not such a good qualifying. Nicola Larini, a bit of a problem with the handling of the car, didn't quite get a handle on that. They felt that they got that sorted in qualifying, ready for the race itself, but unfortunately been taken out on the first corner. They've got no idea. This the spinner,
Sergio Hernandez, yeah, after just making up a place, he's given away two. So Emmett O'Brien, did he avoid that? Yes, he did. He got through. So did Pierre-Yves Courtals and Michel Jourdain, and also the Vickers Sport BMW as well. So he lost a lot of ground there. On board with Augusto Farfus, still chasing Andy Priaulx for second place. Now Farfus last year, of course, started for Alfa Romeo, first race on pole position, didn't win, got beaten to the flag into second place, didn't win race 2 either, but he's trying desperately to win here. Of course, it's not just the pressure of the local media. His family live in the town that you can see right beside the race circuit. This is where he was born, where he was brought up, where as a kid he came to watch races, where he somehow first got bitten by this motor racing bug that afflicts us all so much, and this is where above all else he's desperate to win. Andy Priaulx's already said that his season will be a success if he can win at Brands Hatch in front of the British fans that have supported him for so long in the Touring Car Championships. And even if he doesn't win the title, if he wins at Brands, he'll consider it to be a success. And Augusto Farfus surely must be feeling much the same here, a little sense of frustration that he can't unlock Priaulx's defence and get by and maybe somehow attack Jörg Müller.
It's going to be very difficult for them, because these guys have all got the same cars. They're all in the BMW 320i's, and you know, it is hard work to overtake at the best of times in touring cars, because they're all so evenly matched. But when you've got 3 cars from the same manufacturer, it just makes it more difficult. And you're trying to pass the world champion, remember. Andy Priaulx is the current world champion in world touring cars, so it's a very difficult man to get past indeed.
Looking at Tom Coronel chasing Rob Huff and running out a little wide. We've seen him do that a couple of times already, piling on the pressure. But you're absolutely right. 3 very gifted drivers in 3 all but identical cars. The livery, perhaps not the only difference between them. They change in setup, but in terms of what you can get mechanically to work on a 320 SI, then the BMW Team UK operation have just as much of it. If anybody else, and Stefano D'Aste gets into the back of Michel Jourdain Jr. I guess we could probably drop the junior, although he is still Michel Jourdain Jr. Certainly no spring chicken anymore. We have got a few very young drivers in the field, but Jourdain not one of them. But battling down towards the tail of the field with Stefano D'Aste, who's left the Pro Team BMW operation. Pro Team still running 2 cars here, but Stefano D'Aste with the German Vika Sport team. And our top 3 are definitely pulling a long way ahead of everyone else. Tarquini in 4th, Rob Huff starting to monster him in 5th place. He really is looking threatening. There is Bart Mumpai with the blue shirt on, the RBM team boss, and sharing some space there on the pit wall with the Schnitzer team as well. Very close links, of course, because they are all BMW factory drivers in those 3 cars. And there you can see Alex Zanardi. Now he's shaken off Felix Portiero, but he is again giving Tom Coronel plenty to think about. Zanardi in car number 4 and really pushing to try and make a move.
Alex is really hounding the back of Tom Coronel at the moment. He's taking a different line into the corners, really putting himself into Tom's mirrors to say, look, I'm here on this side, I'm here that side, I'm trying every which way to get past you, and if you make the slightest mistake, he will take that position away from him. So Zanardi very much looking to move up from 7th to 6th. Oh, I haven't said that. If he stays in 7th place, he will start on the front row at the next race.
Oh, so somebody's gone off somewhere. It was Felix Portiero. Well, there goes pole position for race 2. Yes, you're right, David. I was just about to ask, with 4 laps to go, at what stage does Zanardi decide to stop pushing for a place on Coronel? And Portiero just picked that one up too late, just losing it across Ivan Muller's nose. Ivan Muller now 8th anyway, and that would give him pole position for race 2.
That's right, and I think that would be very good for Seat. They're having a very poor weekend. They've got Tarquini as a works driver up there, got Tom Coronel in 6th place also, but there he's all on his own. You can see him coming into the corner just a little bit too quick, locked it all up, and round it went.
Dear.
All done on his own. He's learning what touring cars is all about, and unfortunately probably a little bit tougher in this race than he was expecting.
Ivan Muller controlled his mirth admirably, failed to go off laughing. There's Eugene O'Brien, Emmett O'Brien, I do beg his pardon, with Pierre-Yves Courtals, 2 independent Seat drivers in different teams. Courtals' team incidentally run by Ivan Muller's sister Kathy, herself an ex-racer, and they are battling in 10th and 11th place behind the 2 Seats. Ivan Muller in 8th and Jordi Genet in 9th. Now here, David, is a possible win in race 2 being fought out between these 2, because 8th place Muller has. If Genet doesn't get by him, Genet will start race 2 in 9th with Ivan Muller on pole, and again Priaulx very sideways.
But again, you've got to remember, in the second race it will be a standing start, so currently you'd have Ivan Muller on pole position. Beside him would be Zanardi with a BMW.
Huge lock-up by Jörg Muller as Tom Coronel desperately defends against Alex Zanardi. Jörg Muller, our race leader, a big lock-up. Now even the BMWs are starting to feel the pressure at the moment at the front of the field. Jörg Muller still leads, but the gap has come right down. David, last lap it was 1.26 seconds. It is nothing like that now. Priaulx again running very wide. This is the run into the final corner. But again, yes, you're right, there is no guarantee that starting in a front-wheel drive car on pole you're going to win a race, but you're a flipping sight more likely to do it than from 9th place, which is where Genet finds himself, unless somebody else throws it off in front of them. So it's really important for Genet, equally important of course for the man we ride with now, Jörg Muller, to keep his teammate behind him, because this is not about Seat now, it's every man for himself, because you've got to be able to win races to give Seat the manufacturer's points.
And you need to score points. whatever happens in this championship, we've now got 11 rounds, 1 round more than last year. So there's 11 different race meetings, 2 races each race, 22 races this year to try and get to win this World Championship, and points are vital. Every point is vital, so even finishing 8th is vital point, but even more vital, you start on pole position for the second race, giving you a bigger chance of scoring yet more points. But here's the battle up front, the 3 BMWs, Jörg Müller, Andy Priaulx and Augusta Farfus, and it looks as though Andy's caught Jörg a little bit and left Augusta Farfus behind a little bit. So as Martin, you said, maybe later in the race the car comes back to Andy Priaulx. He's got his car set up, so maybe not so good at the beginning. Towards the end of the race, really good. Now he's making good use of it.
Jörg Müller with a lap and 3/4 to go here at Curitiba. Well, he's held off the rest of the field into the first corner. Felix Portiero still in the car, and he's been out for a couple of laps now, but probably means there are still yellow flags there, so that's not a passing position, but it does mean that drivers just have to mind their P's and Q's if they've got themselves into a bit of a kerfuffle. Jörg Müller led by 1.26 the last lap. It was 0.7 across the line this lap, and I think it might even be a little closer next time round, but time is running out for Andy Priaulx. I don't think he's going to catch him. Emmett O'Brien has a big loss of control. He slides across the grass and drops out of 10th place. Pierre-Yves Courtals has won that battle. They were knocking the paint off each other, so I'm not sure how that started, but the Belgian moves up anyway.
But they were also fighting for first in the independence class. That was the battle, and Emmett O'Brien was in front. Now he's not. Now he's way behind. He's lost 3 places in that battle for the independence championship.
Now then, Jörg Müller after lap 14, leading by 0.6 from Andy Priaulx. We're on lap 15, and the battles don't end there. Emmett O'Brien went off on his own, so certainly no miscreancy there from Pierre-Yves Courtals. He had his mirrors full of Michel Jourdain. But behind this, at the back, Jordi Genet all over Ivan Müller coming onto the straight, and so that's an interesting battle, not only for the win here, but also for pole in race 2. There is a huge tussle going on between the 2 Seat factory drivers, or 2 of the 3 that are at the front of the field. Tarquini, of course, in 4th place, will be in the middle of the top 8, and in the middle of the top 8 when they restart, there's Charlie Lamb, the Schnitzer team boss. His men 1st and 3rd with a lap and a bit to go. Jörg Müller needs to just keep calm. This is the same as cricket now, line and length, brake in the right place, turn in the right place, and it's going to be very hard for Priaulx to pass, but David Priaulx's clearly got the faster car at the moment. This isn't 0.6, this isn't 0.2 of a second between them now. They are almost together, coming across the line. This is going to be a real dramatic last lap, because Müller's car now is the one that's sliding all over the place as they start lap 16, the final lap of the race. Müller goes deep on the inside to defend. Priaulx's going to try and force him to brake too late and overrun the first chicane. Priaulx's all over the back of him. Where's the best passing place?
It's got to be further around the circuit. The problem is, remember, we've got Potero off where one of the better passing places are, and Andy's just got to hassle the back of Jörg. Jörg, you've got to remember, is a very experienced driver, very experienced BMW driver, and he will know what to do. He'll know which lines to take. At the end of that big long straight, he knew to go to the inside. Yes, he'll lose a little bit of speed around the corner, but it does keep Andy behind. He knows the right lines to take to make sure Andy stays where he is, and I can't see him making a mistake, to be perfectly honest. Andy will try everything in his power just to find that little of gap, any gap whatsoever, and he'll stick his nose into the inside wherever it might be. I think he'll find it very difficult to even attempt to go around outside of anywhere.
I think you're right. The track is not long enough, but this is a chance perhaps to just really intimidate Jörg Müller. As you say, though, I think Jörg is too savvy for that, and he's come second too many times in these championships to be giving it away right in the first race. Final corner then, it is going to be win number 1 of the season for Jörg Müller. He said in the second half of the year he scored more points than any other driver. He wanted to do that from the beginning of the season, and he's as good as his word. Victory in round 1 of 22 to Jörg Müller. Andy Priaulx second, Augusto Farfus third, as close as you like. Gabriele Tarquini 4th for Seat, Rob Hubb 5th, Tom Coronel 6th, Alex Zanardi 7th, and Ivan Müller holds off. Jordi Genet for 8th and 9th positions. 10th at the line will be the top independent Pierre-Yves Courtals, just ahead of the factory set driver Michel Jourdain, with Stefano D'Aste the second independent and Emmett O'Brien third in the Independence Trophy. Well, a race that started with carnage, us losing at least half a dozen cars. We lost another couple during the race, but in the end, the man who started from pole position was the man who ended the race in front. David, it was pretty textbook stuff for Jörg Müller. Covered the first race, the rolling start without too many problems, absolutely sealed his win away from the rolling start, and then resisted the resurgence of Andy Priaulx to the flag.
He did try hard. He got a very good break when it came to the safety car coming in and restarting. He pulled a good couple of seconds out on the rest of the field, helped him tremendously. Only towards the end of the race did Andy Priaulx come back, but it was a little too late really, and Andy had to settle for second. But it's a good point score whichever way you look at it. These three guys up front with the BMWs first, second, third, Seat fourth, Chevrolet fifth. So three of the four manufacturers in the top 5 positions. So Seat should be quite happy that Gabriele Tarquini's got a position. Tom Cornell, who's not an official works driver but still in not an independent because of his winning the independence last year, was 6th overall, and starting from the front row next time will be Ivan Muller, who finished 8th along beside Zanardi, who finished 7th. So see it a bit better for the second race really, for the positions on the grid.
Well, yes, that's right, because Ivan Muller, as you said, if you read from the bottom of the page, that's the grid for race 2 with the BMWs behind him, and behind them another bunch of Seats as well, led by Jordi Genet in 9th position. Cars coming into Parc Fermé, led by Jörg Müller. Andy Priaulx there, car number 1, the defending champion. So cars number 1, 2 and 3 finishing not quite in numerical order, 2, 1 and 3, but certainly last year's championship front runners. The final 3 in the point standings, the top 3, David, start this year pretty much as if the intervening 5 months hadn't happened, very much at the front of the field, and Jörg Müller looks absolutely as delighted with that as he was with pole position. He really must be starting to think, if I don't win it soon, I'm going to have to give up this touring car lark.
Yeah, he's been trying for some time now, and it's always been that one man, Andy Priaulx, who stopped him from winning it. But unfortunately, it hasn't happened for Andy today. Well, not in the first race yet anyway. And Jörg will be very, very happy. See the smile on his face, and that he's finally got that win, because he knows wins do make a big difference when it comes to the end of the season.
Jörg Müller, first pole, first win. How was the victory?
Well, it was tough because my rear axle started to drop, so the tire started to drop, and I had to be a little bit more careful with the car. I was very nervous in the rear. And then we had the yellow phase there, which was always dangerous. You don't know how much you have to back off, that Andy doesn't close the gap further, so it was a little bit of a difficult situation. But at the end I hold him off, and first victory this season. It's good.
Thank you.
So Jörg Müller down there with our man Sebastian Tiffert. We'll try and catch up with a couple of the other drivers before the end of this first race telecast. But there is Jörg Müller. Race 1, win number 1, job done.
Thank you very much.
So taking a look then at the carnage in the first corner, and that's where Nicola Laurini's race ended. Pierre-Yves Courtals, closest to us, got back out and in fact ended his race in the points for the Independence Trophy. And Laurini, well, just trying to get in front of Ivan Muller's Seat, couldn't quite make a car's length but turned in anyway. And Ivan Muller will feel, I guess, pretty pleased to have escaped that. Muller on the inside, the second of the yellow Seats. The Chevrolet, no question about it, came across to try and get to the apex and of course avoid the cars outside of him, David. We can't just say it was all about shutting down Ivan Muller. It was all about survival there, and everybody had a tough job trying to do it.
As you said, trying to get all those cars, 20 cars, into that first corner, all trying to be first into the first corner side by side. Something had to give, and now you can see the sort of things that has given. Suspension, the damage on the bodywork of all those 6 cars that were taken out, some of it quite massive in actual fact.
Ironically, only one BMW seemed to get damaged in all of that, so everybody else is paying the price of having a rolling start, which was intended to negate BMW's start line advantage. Those first 3 or 4 seconds of a standing start race where the rear wheels are laden up in a rear-wheel drive car to give it better traction, whereas in a front-wheel drive car the weight shift to the back as they accelerate relieves some of the weight on the front wheels and makes wheel spin more likely rather than less likely to happen. But in terms of financial cost, it's cost a lot of cars an awful lot of money to have that rolling start rather than a standing start, because everybody's going much quicker and they tend to be much closer bunched together.
One of the reasons why people, certainly BMW, are going quicker. Yes, BMW said you can have a rolling start because that was the people who got most effect, but in doing so they wanted something back, and that something back was to have their car 15 kilos lighter. That was the deal that was done with the FIA. Yes, we'll have a rolling start, but we need something. If you're going to take a rolling start, give us a rolling start. That was 15 kilos in weight. That 15 kilos looks as though it is working big time for the BMW team. They've been right on top all the time. Every practice session, every qualifying session, they've been there. Look at the race. First, second and third. They were just so far ahead of everybody else. And it's only the independents where Cortals with his Seat has actually managed to come onto the podium, to the winner of the Independents Cup.
Well, you can see the top 3 coming on. Absolutely, as David said, top 3 BMWs, the 2 Schnitzer cars and the BMW Team UK outfit. Jörg Müller and the German national anthem for the race winner, and the only non-BMW driver, Pierre-Yves Cortals, again Seat topping the independents, this time not with Tom Coronel but with a close neighbour, the Belgian driver Pierre-Yves Cortals, and I think I might be right in saying that's his first Independence Trophy victory, so big day for him at the start of the 2007 season. So to present the trophies to our top 3, and BMW also taking the trophy for the race-winning manufacturer, courtesy of the Schnitzer team. And while their drivers are up here, of course, their own teams will be planning what they're going to do with the cars, what damage needs fixing. Cortals, of course, got punted off the track, so there might be some damage issues on his car. Meanwhile, the German national anthem for our race 1 winner. So Jörg Müller, our race 1 winner, and that's got to be the best start for anybody's championship, hasn't it, David? Pole, first race win, all right, see what you can get out of race 2, but certainly he'll head off leaving Brazil tonight feeling pretty happy with the weekend so far.
Whatever happens in the second race, he'll still feel very happy with the weekend. To get pole position the way he did, he said it was the perfect lap to get that pole position. He's really, really pleased with it, and then to go out and lead from the front all the way and finish ahead of the world champion Andy Priaulx. That is a very, very good start to your championship. He has been second for 3 years in a row, and he very much wants to turn that around and be in front of this guy, the guy who finished second. He's done it in this first race. Can he do it over the whole of the championship? Well, over the coming months, between now and November, we will be watching to find out.
We certainly will. There's not going to be any way of knowing, probably again, until we get to Macau. Last year we had 9 drivers going to the final race weekend with a chance, albeit some very mathematical, of winning the championship. But that is a phenomenal testimony to just how close the series has been. It's something like 7 different drivers leading the points at one stage or another. And in the end, of course, it was Andy Priaulx claiming his 3rd international championship in a row after the European title, 2 world titles, and he is going for his 3rd FIA World Championship, something that has never been consecutively achieved by any British driver. So that would be a huge landmark for him if he could manage it. Well, the next step, of course, is race 2 here in Curitiba, and that will be coming up in 3 hours time. That'll be 1900 Central European time, which is 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And that will equate to 3 p.m. here in Curitiba, and that means hopefully we should get the races done before the afternoon autumn rains arrive, but it's by no means guaranteed. Getting busy with the fizzy, David. It's a tradition that started many years ago. And
well, the one thing you should never do is say to the guys on the podium, don't spray me, because that's one thing that's guaranteed to happen. And that's what happened to the guy from BMW. He said, no, not me. So that all three of them just turned on him. And he's the one that's soaked from head to foot. And the other guys have got nothing on them at all.
Typical racing drivers, one unarmed party, and so they turn on him. They'd eat their own young, wouldn't they, if they had half a chance. So lots of smiles on the podium, little bit of thinking to do, a lot of panel work to be done by a number of the other teams as well, but that means that we will have now a Seat driver on pole for race 2, Ivan Muller. His real worry is that Alex Zanardi's BMW will start in the outside of the front row of the grid. Tom Coronel will start third from Rob Huff in a Chevrolet. In fifth position will give Gabriele Tarquini, and our three BMW drivers will start sixth Farfus, seventh Prio, and eighth Muller. But again, David, as you said, they've given away one of their standing start advantages, but they've gained a 15 kilo advantage, and that's going to help them even more, the BMW drivers, away from a standing start. Not only do they get better traction, but they're starting lighter cars with better traction.
But being 15 kilos lighter means they qualify better to start with. So they're always going to be on the front row because they've got that much lighter to start with. So yes, I can understand why they felt aggrieved, said, well, if you give the front-wheel drive guys a rolling start, that will hurt us BMW. Therefore, what can we have back in place of that? The deal was 15 kilos of weight. That's great for BMW because now they're lighter, they're quicker, and rather than being on the second row, whatever it be, trying to get past the front row, they're now on the front row, even for the rolling start. So they're not losing anything at all, really.
Well, of course, now everybody started with 10 kilos of ballast on board, so anybody who hasn't scored points immediately loses that. So they immediately become 10 kilos lighter. But a non-ballasted BMW driver will still be 15 kilos lighter than a non-ballasted driver of anything else. So yes, I mean, and it also means that if you get 20 kilos of the most successful driver of the weekend added to, let's say that's Jörg Müller in terms of points scored, effectively he's still only 5 kilos heavier than a non-ballasted driver that didn't score a single point. So it's going to take a while for the weight to catch up this year compared to last year with the more successful drivers.
But also last year you had a maximum of 80 kilos you could carry as ballast. This year that's been reduced to 60, and it was the BMWs that carries most weight. In actual fact, the one person who carried most weight all of last year was Andy Aprio, and he still won the World Championship in a BMW. So, you know, they can still carry the weight better than most of the other cars. So whatever happens, BMW must be smiling from ear to ear with their weight at the moment. How long that will last,
yes, exactly.
I understand the other teams are saying, well, we don't expect it to last past this weekend. They're expecting to be sorted very quickly.
First race of the season, first win. It looked easy. How was it?
Definitely not easy. I cannot understand what someone said it looked easy. I mean, Andy was very close behind me at the last 3-4 laps because my rear tires dropped a little bit and I got a little bit of oversteering, so we have to sort that for the second race. But definitely perfect weekend. I was fastest in qualifying, fastest in warm-up, won the race, so let's see what the second race gives us.
How was it with the rolling start? Was it advantage or disadvantage for you?
Was easy. Didn't look bad, did it? No, it was no problem. I think the front-wheel driven cars, they have a little bit of an advantage there, but it's not too big. It was okay for me. I was packed with 4 BMWs, so they have done the same start than me, which was okay for me.
Did you see anything of the chaos that happened behind you?
No, nothing at all. For sure, I watched my mirrors when we came to the first corner, but I saw Andy behind me and Augusto was there as well. And usual BMWs in each other, they don't kick each other off. So I was quite safe and it was okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that was always the worry into the first corner. 3 of the top drivers on the planet in terms of touring cars, all in identical BMWs, but as ever, the discipline that these drivers instill in themselves to get to this level held out, and they managed to file in. Might have changed order, but still they got through cleanly. Here's Andy Prio.
Andy Prio, the 2-time world champion, becomes second in the first race. How was it?
Yeah, I'm very happy. Very good performance. Car was very consistent over the race, and in fact I closed the gap at the end. So you know, from considering we've had quite a lot of difficulties in free practice 1 and 2 and qualifying, we've done very well to improve our performance, and I'm happy we can continue with this for the second race.
How much did you see the chance to overtake Jörg and to take the victory?
Well, you know, I don't want to be a hero today. It's so easy to be a zero. It's the beginning of the season. It takes a full year to win a championship. So I'm very calm, extremely happy with what we've achieved today, and focused on the second race now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, David, everybody I think will be of the same mind that you want to score as many points as possible, but there is a time for heroics, and maybe November is slightly more the time than here in March.
I think as the year progresses, somewhere along the line somebody will try and be a hero and have an accident, but not at the first race.
Augusto Farfus, the first race with BMW and on the podium at home. How is it?
Very good feeling. You know, my goal was to finish the race, to score some points, and I reached that goal, so I have just say thanks for all the team, all the guys which support me during the winter. Now I'm looking forward for the second race, which will be probably harder. We are starting on the back, but anyway, the car seems very good, and we have just to manage it to try to gain some place and to score even more points.
What do you think is possible with the rear-wheel driven BMW for the second race now with the standing start?
Will be not easy, especially because the tarmac where we start is a kind of is not an asphalt, which has a lot of grip. So I think front wheel cars will start very well. So I just have to wait. I'm looking forward, and I'm happy for this first race with BMW.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think he should be happy, David. I think he's done an excellent job. Perhaps the conversion from a rear drive touring car to front drive would have been harder, but it's still really quite an alien beast to him in terms of racing at his first race start. Okay, he didn't maybe get as good a getaway through the gears as Jörg Müller, but he started well. At one stage it looked as though he might take the lead from Jörg Müller, which was pretty impressive stuff.
He made a very good start indeed, and he's not only is he changing from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive, the gearbox in the BMW is the old-fashioned H pattern where you have to change backwards and forwards, side to side to get your gears, whereas the front wheel drive cars you had before, it's more like a motorcycle gear change. Push it backwards, push it forwards, that's up and that's down, that's all it is.
So Augusto Farfus happy here at Brazil, and the crowd will stay here and watch the support races before the World Touring Car Championship reconvenes for the second round of the weekend, and a chance for those who finished a little further down the order perhaps to star, with the pole position man being Ivan Müller for Seat. So join us again for the second race of the World Touring Car Championship, live from Curitiba in Brazil. Till then, from the crew on site, from David Leslie and me, Martin Haven, it's goodbye for now.